Stephen is so patient. You look like you, what's that? A cat. All right, I'm distracted now. Easy to do. Okay. So people often can't tell my cultural background from looking at me. Can anyone guess? Can you guess, Stephen, what my cultural background might be? Alcoholic.
What's your background?
And I'm pretty sure that doing the 100 shows of Unmuted over lockdown probably, helped me reclaim my culture because I stopped doing it for 3 weeks and then I stopped drinking as well. But yeah, I actually went to an AA meeting and I decided that AA is just like the worst open mic ever. Because everybody gets the mic, nobody gets the light, nobody's telling any jokes, and you're not allowed to heckle. So I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. But I think my parents only drank because they didn't have other drugs. Like antidepressants. That's the main one. Because the cost of living nowadays, who can afford cocaine? But the other thing they didn't have that I have is stand-up comedy.
That's right.
And that's a really good form of therapy for me to, talk about my parents and what they did. But they did their best, they did their best. And I didn't really know, I didn't appreciate that they were better parents than I thought they were. So I sort of thought that, my parents' parenting style was like the neglect model of parenting. But I didn't realise what a privileged childhood I had when I grew up and joined the comedy scene, and I was the only one who knew how to roll a joint. Oh, there's some privilege there. I didn't realise I had. Yeah, I actually am surprised I survived my childhood, and it's nothing to do with my parents. It's not their fault at all, because I did some pretty stupid shit, and I don't know how I really managed to survive. And my friends as well. One time I didn't know how to drive. And I took out Mum's car, and it was a manual. 15 years old I was. She left her keys. And I thought, right, this looks like fun. Let's go for a spin. I took two or three friends, and I went in Mum's car. And I was just like, I'm sure it's not that hard. I've seen them do it before. And I was changing gears, and I lived in a very hilly area, in a farmland area. There were a lot of roads, and the very curvy roads, and I was just screaming around these corners and up on banks, and then it was a lot of fun. We were just laughing our heads off and thought it was great fun. And then I got back home and I knocked over the neighbours' rubbish bins into the big, burnout into the driveway. Next day, the neighbour came out and was saying, there were some hoods out last night, doing burnouts in the street. It's like, really? I didn't hear them. I must have been asleep. But when I grew up and I had children, it made me realise, I'm just saying that there's a bright light here that doesn't matter, I suppose. I realised that one of the things that I don't want my children to do is kill themselves doing some stupid shit like I did, something, or their friends, So I've talked to them and I said, look, I don't want you to kill yourself by accident, because that. I don't want you to kill yourself at all, but I definitely don't want you to kill yourself by accident. That is too serious. If you're going to do that, it has to be on purpose. And same as with, me nearly putting my friend's life at risk. If you're going to kill someone else, you don't want it to be by accident. I have learned that as an adult too. You want that to be intentional. Anyway, so my children better behave. I have discovered that I don't have to worry about them killing themselves, though, because they're far too lazy. They expect their parents to do it for them. Yeah, so anyway, that was my suicide talk I had with my children. I'm a good parent. I tell them all the time I'm a good parent. So one of the things that I did when I was a kid was I smoked, because, in Nearham South, where I lived, there wasn't anything else to do. You only had the option of sticking disgusting things in your mouth. And when you smoked, you got the option of cigarettes and fisherman's friends, because you've got to try and hide the cigarettes. Jan's making a face. You're obviously not a smoker. So I did that, you know, I had to hide my cigarette smoking because it stunk. Everybody could tell when you smoked. But nowadays, kids have vapes, right? And you can't smell that. Like I know, because my kids caught me smoking, but they don't catch me vaping. You know, it's not fair because when I was at school, we had to, as I said, put these, you know, sprays and fisherman's friends, try and hide the vaping. But nowadays, like, it's so different at school. Like, people are doing it in class. That's just the teachers. We don't have, like, we had to hide down behind the shell sheds. And then there was, before vapes, it was the teachers hiding down behind the shell sheds. And then, you know, nowadays everybody's just vaping secretly. Like, you know, honestly, I don't tell my kids that I got to vape. I've got to get through this teenage years somehow. But my daughter's at a school where, like, of course, you're not allowed to vape, but you're also not allowed to have a mobile phone. Like, that is as serious as it gets. Kids get in big trouble if they have a mobile phone with them. And my daughter had her mobile phone, and she was like, "Oh, you know, if they see it, they'll take it off me." And that's when, like, my childhood experiences I thought were helpful. Like, you know, I was able to say to her, you know, "Don't worry if they can see it. Just tell them it's a packet of cigarettes." Because they won't believe you. They'll know it's just a joke. Anyway. That was one of my parenting hacks. I try to help my children, try to be a good mum. Yeah, they tell me I'm a good mum. They say, "Yeah, mum, you're a cool mum. You go out and you do comedy, you know, you're a cool mum." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not like one of these boring mums that stays home and helps their kids with their homework and cooks dinner. I'm not like one of those." And they just look at me like, "What is that? Does it mean others do that?" And I'm like, no, just kidding, no. That's not what other mothers do at all. I'm cool, I'm cool. I would say my parenting style is a cross between hunter-gatherer and survival of the fittest, with a little bit of the Hunger Games mixed in. Because I am a parent. There's a lot they don't tell you about parenting, Stephen. You know about that? All the crying. All the crying. I haven't stopped for 15 years. I'm a parent of twins. People sometimes ask me questions about my twins. They say, "Do your twins feel pain at the same time?" And the answer is yes, when I'm banging their heads together. But it was survival of the fittest from the start with them, because, like, they were fighting in my womb. You know, I was like, other parents were playing music to their singletons, trying to, you know, make the experience of birth pleasant for the child in utero. And I'm like, "Don't make me come in there. Leave your sister alone. There's a timeout when you're out." So yeah, parenting twins was like brutal from the start. And in fact, one of the other questions people ask me is, so which one of your twins is the dominant twin? Which one is the dominant twin? And my children were fighting over that, like who was the dominant twin, which I thought was quite funny because they were sort of equal in their fight. You know, they were like, "No, it's me, it's me, it's me." And I was like, okay, well, there's only one way to solve this, really. Let's get a cage and make it to the death. Finally prove to everyone who is the dominant twin, because, you know, everybody wants to know. So I'm an agreeable person. It kind of gets me in trouble, though, being an agreeable person. When we moved to Nearham South from Warragul, okay, so we went, I thought Warragul was bad. And then I started to appreciate Warragul. Nearham South is colder, wetter, the guys were dirtier, like literally muddy. I had my first crush. My first crush was in Warragul, though. Grant Butler. All the girls loved Grant Butler, or Mr. Butler, as he liked to be called. He smelled good. He was clean. Like it set him apart from the other boys. Yeah, so, but I stayed at Warragul because I wanted to escape. I knew that the only way out was through education. I had to there's nothing, I couldn't do anything else. Like, I had no other skills. I had to get out there through learning somehow. So when we moved to Neerim South, there were two options: the late bus, which was a half an hour, or the early bus, which was an hour to get from Neerim South to Warragul. Now I thought, oh, well, I'll catch the early bus, the late bus. I mean, it's only half an hour, but on the late bus, there were these year 11 boys. So I was like 12, 13, year 7, and I had to stand up all the way to school for half an hour, which was okay. But then these boys would yell out stuff like, "Do you give head jobs?" And because I was an agreeable person, I just said yes. But I didn't actually know. I didn't know what a head job was at that point. But, I wasn't when I found out, I'm like, oh my God, there's a third disgusting thing you can stick in your mouth. But yeah, that was near as yeah. But I ended up catching the later bus. Took an hour to get to school, and that at the time seemed bad, but after half an hour with the year 11 boys, it actually seemed okay. I was happy. I could handle an hour's driving, every morning, each way. All right, so I'm not sure, I can't remember how much time I've got, but I'm just going to keep going now because I've got another little piece and then I'll finish up. It's kind of like the Paula and Deanne show, so if you're happy for me to just do a little bit more. So I moved to Neerim South, and then I became, I had to choose a career to get out. And I didn't know, I'm a speech pathologist as well, Stephen, I'm a speech pathologist. And I'm also a teacher. And that means I spend half my time trying to get kids to talk, and the other half trying to get them to shut up.
That's a good point.
And that's a challenge. But, being a speech pathologist was kind of a miracle now, because in Neerim South, there were no speech pathologists. No one had even heard of speech pathology. And you could tell that just walking around talking to people, because there were so many people that had speech problems in Neerim South. And, I actually dated a guy called Greg. And his name was Greg. But he couldn't say his R's. And if I had really, he was pretty cute. He was a footballer, and I don't know, at the time, no one knew about speech therapy. The doctor couldn't burn it or cut it out. Like, that was it, you got it for life. So I just kind of assumed Greg would just be Greg forever. I don't know if I could handle that. I don't know, I was prejudiced. Like, I didn't understand diversity at that time, I wasn't aware. So I dumped Greg. But, now I'm a speech, but I didn't tell you also that I had a list. I had a list. So also who was I to dump Greg? But I didn't have an S in my name. So at least I could introduce myself. He got quite buff, to compensate. But when I became a speech pathologist, I had to pass a speech test, to get in. And I was not worried about my list until then. I'm like, I can't do the test. They won't let me in the course. It didn't occur to me that, they might be able to fix my list. We had no belief in this profession at that time. I went for 3 years before someone caught me, and then they fixed it in one session, and I'm like, oh wow, this shit actually works. 3 out of 4 years of therapy training, and I just, still didn't have belief, but when they did, fixed it in one session, which meant that when I had a child with a lisp, I was pretty hardcore with my parenting style, and was like, I've already told you once, now don't do it again. Which was the way I thought you were meant to do it, because that's how they did it with me. But yeah, don't do that with my clients, by the way. Much nicer to them. But my children don't pay me the big bucks. So anyone who doesn't believe in free speech has never had to pay a speech pathologist. Yeah, so I got caught, got my list fixed, and then I'm like, what have I done? I dumped Greg. And now it's like diversity is a big thing. You can actually embrace difference. I don't think I would even change my speech now. I would make it my signature speech problem, and I would people would come to me because I'm going to make a train you to have a list, and people are out there and they're going, hey, I like your list. Where did you get that list? And they'll be like, Paula Ferrari, speech pathology. Clients will come in and they'll say, Stephen, I noticed that you don't have a list. Would you like one? But all it took was, them to show me where to put my tongue. And, I just really wish I could go back in time to the past so I could see where, because then, I would be quite happy to show him where to put his tongue. Because I have a lot more skills now than I did back then. So yeah, that's my main regret. Let's embrace speech problems, and it doesn't really matter. Maybe we should all have more speech. Make you stand out from the crowd. Could probably end on the brief showing where that was going to be the end. Showing where to put his tongue. Yeah, so that's a new joke. Thanks for laughing. Yeah. A little bit of innuendo. One of the things that as a speech pathologist you have to be careful is not to be too sexy though, because it's a very oral